Hello and welcome to another edition of the Formula One Fans UK podcast. I'm Reese. I'm joined today by the only member of the team whose bedtime has not gone past.
Danny, it's me.
Even when there's two of us, we still make a bit of a balls up of the intro. We hope you're all doing well.
Yeah, man.
Hope you maybe enjoyed the race. It was a interesting one with not as much on-track action, I think a lot of us would have liked. Busy Kota, 400,000 spectators there, but not enough buses apparently, as our resident American has informed me before we started recording.
It's rough out there.
Rough out there. What we'll do, Danny, I think we'll just get straight into it, and we'll go through the order in reverse. And we'll start with who I think is the unluckiest man in Formula One at the moment, Pierre Gasly.
Oh yeah, definitely. He's just another race. He had another great qualifying effort. Was running in the top 10, and car just gave way. I wasn't able to see what was his cause, but it was just really unfortunate for Gasly, as he was having a strong race and in the top 8 at the time. But yeah,
he had the issues before the race with the engine, and then in the race he retires with, I think it was suspension. So we are recording this straight after the race. The podium is just finished. Be interesting to see how this turns out. Next up was Esteban Ocon, who he qualified well again. Just he had a bad race. He was caught up in a turn 1 incident, wasn't he?
He was jammed up a bit, and he lost some positions. In the turn 1 incident.
Was it turn 1, or it might have been through the S's actually, where he got clipped by one of the Alphas?
Yeah. That, if we can talk real quick about that first lap, all up and down the grid was a stellar first lap, one of the best. Just up and down the grid, there was just nonstop action. I would have loved to have been at the stands and to see that, because it was really, really exciting to see on TV. A lot of things going on.
Yeah, it was action everywhere you looked. It was definitely one of the best first laps we've seen in a long time. Lewis got a great start. Verstappen also, but I think it was 0.4 of a second was the difference, or 0.04 of a second was the difference in the reaction time, which is nothing, but it was enough.
Just a slight little tinge. Great start by those two. But we'll get with them later.
Yeah. Our final DNF for the race was Alonso. He started at the back, worked his way forward, forced Raikkonen off the track, complained about Raikkonen overtaking him after forcing Raikkonen off the track, then dive-bombed Giovinazzi, and then forced his way through, claimed that he did nothing wrong, gave the position back to Giovinazzi before Giovinazzi then ended up doing the exact same and giving the position. It was it was a weird one for Fernando Alonso. It's like he didn't care about the rules.
No, that's been going on since Abu Dhabi 2018. The move on Raikkonen, I couldn't believe he got on the radio immediately and complained. Anybody could see that action on the track, knew that Kimi had nowhere to go, and still tried to make the turn. Was ahead of him the whole time, and immediately Alonso got on the radio. The Giovinazzi one, very unfortunate for Gio. I think that should have gone his way, but I guess enough complaining from Alpine and Fernando gave that to him. But yeah, I felt like he pushed him out a little bit out there on the turn 12. But it was a bit of a karma of him, retiring from the race.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Those 2-3 laps of drama between Alonso and Giovinazzi is going to result in at least 1 hour worth of Netflix material.
Oh, definitely. To me, two I'm going to have 2 seniors going at it. It's going to be on Netflix. It's going to be a whole episode dedicated to old drivers and how they are still relevant in this series.
Going from someone who's relevant to someone who's not really relevant, Formula One, Nikita Mazepin.
Who's that? I was like, who's that? No. He actually had fans. He had fans. I find it hard.
Were they Haas fans or
No, listen. They were American. They must have been related to Haas or the team or something like that. Because how does Mazepin have fans in America just like that, a fan club? But it's true. But he just.
I mean, there's cult followings.
But that was
There's cult
ridiculous.
followings of drivers.
I don't know how you can follow somebody who's in 20th place who's like a minute 14 behind his own teammate. I just don't. He's not fit to be in Formula One.
There are some.
God, I try to give him the benefit of the doubt. He did have a decent F2, but he's bad.
What is the point in Nikita Mazepin in Formula One? I honestly don't know.
He's like Rio Haryanto bad.
Yeah, that's probably the modern comparison. Roberto Merri.
Yeah. Old man or 2015. Yeah. Oh, they were just.
I mean, at least Will Stevens challenged for points once in a race where it was a race he finished 12th just outside the Ponce in a race where 13 cars finished and the other was, I'm pretty sure, the other manor that was behind him.
He give credit to Will Stevens, even though he didn't cut it out for F1. He still has a very good endurance career. He's a really good endurance driver. So big up to him.
I mean, there's been some endurance drivers that have come to Formula One that just haven't had a chance.
Brendan Hartley,
yeah, our best mate Brendan Hartley. Put some respect on the man's name.
Alonso. Hey,
yeah.
young driver.
Oh yeah, that young Alonso was. Well, he was showing his inexperience today. Moving up to Mick Schumacher. Quiet race, really. Didn't see too much of Mick, but he sort of found a way up the order more through luck than judgment with Latifi, Ocon, and Stroll sort of wiping each other or getting involved in incidents. And he held that position for a fair bit of time before just naturally dropping down the order in a slower car.
Yeah, he's doing the best he can for that team. The Haas is horrible. But he did play a crucial part in the end of the race. He was the last car that Max and Lewis had to pass. He was the last backmarker, and he got out the way for Max first, and I think he stayed out for Lewis to pass him in between turn 19 and turn 20. So good driver.
But
he's good decorum.
He's a well-behaved driver, and he doesn't do blocking, unlike Mazepin in qualifying, who, I will admit, I fell asleep in qualifying. It was late over here. It was 10 o'clock start, and I was already tired. But what I did see was Q1 and Mazepin blocking Vettel, and I've never seen Vettel get that angry, or haven't seen Vettel get that angry in a long time.
Yeah. That was it was good to see some fire from Vettel, but that was really cheeky to do that during qualifying, especially in those S turns, that section.
It's always dangerous to sit on the racing line, but it's especially dangerous when you've got such a fast left, right, left section. Or right, left, right, even, in this case. Up the order, Latifi. He got caught up in that incident with Lance Stroll in turn 1. He came on the radio and said straight away he was sandwiched by the Hasses. And, Mazepin pitted at the end of lap 1, so you can tell which Haas might have hit him.
Yeah, it's such a shame. Both Canadians kind of ruined their race there. But remember, Stroll started 12th, I think, right? 12th or 11th?
He was 12th or 13th, I think. I think Ocon was 11th.
And Latifi was 15th. So Latifi had a good jump. Yeah. He had a really good start of the race, but it's how you come out of the first turn, and that will, settle your day.
Yeah. Just didn't get anywhere really with it. It was one of those ones that if you have a lap 1 incident and you're at the back, you come out of the pits, you're further back, and he had a little battle with Ocon.
Yeah, Coda's the
not
track.
The battles they wanted.
Yeah, Coda's a track where if you go, if you're stuck in the back, you're stuck in the back. It's not as easy. I know it has a long straight, but it's not as easy to come up, make positions. It's a very hard track for that. But yeah, once you're in the back there, it's game over.
But I think that also is the state of modern F1 as well. You've got to have cars that can follow each other a little bit better. And I mean, we'll get onto that later in the race. Oh, later in the podcast. We'll step up to Mr. Saturday. Despite his engine penalties that were incoming, he still managed to find time to put a time in that got him out of Q1.
Mm-hmm.
Battled up, got as high as 13th, I think it was, before sliding back down to 14th eventually when faster drivers caught up. He climbed up a little bit because of Alonso's retirement, but the sort of race you expect from a Williams.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say that an expected race from Williams, but I feel like it's an expected race from Russell, being able to maximize the performance of that car and come up with a great result, a good result. Definitely see his pedigree, well deserved seat at Mercedes next year where he can use his talent. But today he did the best he can at Williams, and good for him. Good weekend.
Next up is the old man you wanted to talk about, Kimi Raikkonen.
The original Iceman. The original. Yeah, it's just a shame. Driving top 10 on the Discord chat, we were talking about possibility of him being driver of the day. And that first sector, it just all went away from him at that spin. Really unfortunate. He was he won there 2018. Right, yeah, and he seemed to have good pace today. To pull that alpha, which wasn't that stellar over the weekend, but to come up and be in the top 10 all race and just to have it slip out of your hands, that's got to be frustrating for a veteran like Kimi.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. It all looked like he was having a great race. I couldn't fault the move on Alonso, and then the late spin, it just ruined your race. And there's not much more to say about that. Up to Lance Stroll, 12th. Good recovery, I guess, from his first lap spin.
Yeah.
One thing I noticed, and I think this is just because of how bunched up and crazy for the opening laps of Grand Prix are, he spun around, and by the end of lap 2 or 3, he was 3 seconds off the pack again.
Yeah. He had a decent weekend, decent result. His car was built for this race on his side of the garage, not so much for Vettel, but it's just a shame. He felt
what's a home race?
Well, think about it. Exactly. It was, he got to see his family for the first time in 2 years, and supposedly he was in a great mood. His energy was high. He was, excited to be there, and it just unfortunately he had that first turn incident, kind of ruined his race.
It was a good fight back, but you don't get points for finishing outside the top 10.
No.
And speaking of guys who finished outside the top 10, Giovinazzi has assumed his usual position of being the new Gutierrez and finishing 11th.
Number 11. Mr. 11. Mr. 11.
Giovinazzi's contract must be on the line because he started finishing 11th again.
He's probably re-signed. Who knows? Maybe Hertz isn't coming to Sauber, Alfa Romeo / Andretti / whatever they want to call themselves next year. The Swiss team. Yeah, good for Giovinazzi. 11th place. Kind of took, did the best that he could. Got the most out of he could from that Alfa. But it's a nice battle seeing him and Vettel go at it, and Vettel ultimately overtaking him. But it's just frustrating. The points were with Kimi, and hopefully we'd have somebody like Giovinazzi to be able to pick up the scraps. I just didn't work that way for them this week.
I think before we move on, we might as well address the rumors with is it Andretti looking to buy out or buy a large chunk of Sauber?
Yeah. I guess that seems the way to do it. To enter Formula One is right now. Look at Lawrence Stroll and how he was able to buy a struggling team like Force India that went into administration and got it at a reasonable price. You got a good deal out of it, and now he's got himself a really good team. I know Aston Martin's not looking so good this year, but that has their facilities are being upgraded. Wind tunnel software is all being upgraded. They're getting they're able to hire more people. They've been bringing in people from Red Bull and from Mercedes, from last I heard. So they're building themselves up. It's very similar to when Red Bull came into the scene back into after Jaguar in 2004, 2005, something like that. You're starting to pick up that sense of environment, and I feel like Vettel is a good person to have, kind of like a David Coulthard was for Red Bull when he joined Red Bull. So going back to the Andretti, I feel like Sauber is that same situation where you can come in, somebody with big money who can buy this team. They already have a great wind tunnel, and they have a decent engine, Ferrari, and with the changes next year, and having a top driver like Valtteri. Valtteri is no slouch. He had a great race today. Yeah, I know he was in the back, but
we are going to disagree on that.
Okay, well, but Valtteri at least can bring an experience to that team in Sauber, and he's not old. He has experience. Now Sauber's it's very enticing with Andretti, and he might buy it. We don't know. There's nothing confirmed yet. But if Andretti does buy Sauber, then Herta is probably going to follow with him. And I think the review on that is kind of mixed here in the States. Some people want Herta to stay, and obviously some people look at drivers like Grosjean, Magnussen, who are top drivers, but who couldn't make it in F1, and they fear that Herta will be the same way. So,
okay, well, I think because, our listener base is sort of split between the UK and the US. Not everyone's going to be too familiar with IndyCar, so can you give us a bit of a background on Colton Herta?
One of the youngest IndyCar winners. He actually won at COTA 2019. I can't remember. Yeah, he's got a lot of talent. He's really young. I think he's only 20, 21 years old. So, he's definitely one of the very talented drivers that IndyCar has to offer. There's a lot of good talent in IndyCar. And I feel like he'll represent Indy going to Formula One. Yeah, he's not going to have the instant success as Jacques Villeneuve had almost 30 years ago. But I feel like he does go into Sauber, takes a year. We might see something out of him. At least better than Scott Speed, I hope.
Oh God, can't be. That's another one to throw in the Roberto Meri, Rio Haryanto bucket. That one.
Yeah.
Before we get into the top 10, we'll quickly just take a moment to say this podcast, like always, is sponsored by Apex Tracks. For all your 3D printed track wall art needs, head to apextracks.com. That's APEXTRAXS.com. They're a company that we all like, and speaking of companies people like, Red Bull, Danny, they look popular there, but why? Because it's always been a Hamilton fan base out there.
Yeah, they love brands. Americans love branding, and I can guarantee you that over 50% of Americans will think that Red Bull is an American brand. They have no idea about the history. They just know they can go to their local gas station and buy cans of Red Bull. They can go to Walmart and they can use their food stamp card to pick up a case of Red Bull. So yeah, Red Bull does have a following in the United States. They do, and they big following. And you see somebody like Max, the name Max. Yeah, Americans they love to live to the max, quote unquote. So I think that's underrated. There's an underrated following.
You guys
here.
are slogans are the worst.
Oh,
you guys are slogans are the worst.
But I would also say this, and not to be super controversial, not to be super controversial, but with Hamilton in the past couple of years and his social awareness, race as one, kneeling, him obviously wearing a controversial shirt. It's like cops killed Breonna Taylor last year at the Tuscan Grand Prix. There's, as we all know, there are some Americans here, most of them are race fans, that don't like that stuff. And they will instantly start to complain that you shouldn't mix politics with sports. Well, I absolutely think that's wrong and that's nonsense. You use your platform and where you go. And so I do feel that Lewis has lost some of that fandom here in the United States, just because of his opinions and his support into minority causes. So, I am not saying that it's because due to racism or prejudice and stuff like that, but I feel like Americans, they relate more to Red Bull as a brand than to Mercedes-Benz as a brand. They see Mercedes-Benz as like the high-end, high class, and that sort.
While we're just quickly bringing it up, I have to say the reception the We Racers one got, the kneeling and the individual sort of stance that the drivers took, that got a good reception from fans at the start of the race. So that was good to see.
Yeah.
We'll get into the top 10 with Seb Vettel and his absolute highlight, other than a certain not moving out the way quick enough. The move on George Russell was fantastic.
Yeah. Well, what turn was that in?
It was round your mimicking of turn 8 in Istanbul. It was your right hand of multi apex.
Oh yeah. Turn 18, 17, 18.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Vettel, great weekend. He's God, I couldn't stand him in Ferrari. I couldn't stand him giggling on the radio saying we won at their house when he won in 2018 in Silverstone. That stuff just it got under my skin. But look at him now in the pre-race parade lap, announcing to the fans, please don't litter, pick up after yourselves. Just that, I'm just like, man, I want this guy to do great. He's such a great human being, and he's such a great driver. Yeah, we can hate on him all we want, but we have to be honest.
The old days.
Yeah, we have to be honest. Vettel is a legend of the sport. Yeah, he won't be top 5 driver, but he's just a good human being and just a good driver. So first of all, I want to say, shout out for him on reminding the fans to clean up after their damn selves. But then on the race, he was feisty. He had the grit between his teeth. He was on that radio after that qualifying session on when Mazepin cut him off and during those S's, and he was quickly on the radio. Like, what are we doing here? It was kind of refreshing to hear that from Seb.
That bit of fight that's sort of gone missing since the Ferrari days. It was definitely back this weekend.
Yeah.
Another thing that was back this weekend was your Tsunoda hype train.
He was hyped.
He was good this weekend. He had a clean race weekend. Probably his second or third in F1. I mean, he's not had too many where it's just gone well all weekend, but this weekend was definitely one of those.
And let me just say this. He had a great, I believe, I know he was outside of top 10 in Turkey, but he held his nerve in holding back Hamilton in the wet for several laps, and he did that again today with Valtteri. A great drive. Maturity's kicking in. I hope next year he goes into AlphaTauri, challenges Gasly or whoever's there, and just picks up solid points for AlphaTauri and gets re-signed on merit. Not without the Honda backing. He feels like it feels like he's got it. He's driving smart races. He's not dirty.
Yeah.
He's not a dirty driver. He seems smarter than what we've given him credit for.
He's hot-headed, but he's got it. He's got talent.
Yeah, Max was a hot-headed driver in his early days. Still is in a way, but so I'm not comparing Yuki to Max, but it's just good to see that. But talking about Yuki and Max, at the end of the race, well, not towards the end of the race, Yuki was holding him up. That was that was crazy.
I dubbed him the anti-Seb in the Discord, because he just did the opposite. He held up Verstappen after Seb had held up Lewis.
Yeah, he held him up.
When you were saying you were talking about Yuki and Max, I thought you were going to be talking about the little Honda pickup, or whatever you guys call Honda out there. There was a little pickup advertisement that was going around. I'm not sure if you saw it, where the AlphaTauri and Red Bull drivers were all there, standing at the back of the pickup, and they got Yuki Tsunoda to get under the I don't know what you'd even call it. What's the bit of a truck where the flat of the pickup?
Yeah, the camper set part. The camper.
Yeah,
part.
They lifted up the base of the and they got Yuki Tsunoda to climb underneath.
Oh, Jesus Christ! I gotta see that. I'm gonna YouTube it later. It's gotta be on. That's hilarious.
Either I had a very vivid dream, or that happened, and it was. It was quite interesting. I mean, Yuki Tsunoda's being trashed by his own social media quite a bit for his height. There's a moment after the last race.
Not even by his own team, but Martin Brundle. Always when he replay the race, it happened several times when the camera was on Yuki, but he would say, "Oh, a little scrap's going on here with Yuki." He would use the word "little" or any kind of short word, meaning shortness for Yuki. He does that all the time. I'm surprised Yuki hasn't gone to Brundle and
Be like, when you say that, it'd be like Scrappy Doo starting a fight.
Hey, don't sleep on Yuki. 120 pounds of Japanese power.
And 80 pounds of that is race suit. Moving on to 8th place, Lando Norris. It's one of those weird races where he is outperformed by Ricciardo. But even when he's outperformed, he's still putting it in the top 10. Even if he is at the bottom of the third place constructors battle this time.
Yeah, pretty rough day for him. This has been a couple races now in a row where Ricciardo has beaten him. Italy, Turkey, and now Coda. Yeah, I wonder what's going on. Maybe the length. I don't know what's going on with that. That's weird.
Do you think it's a hangover from Sochi, because of course what's happened in Istanbul and what's happened today, they are the two races that have followed what happened in Sochi?
I don't know. I feel like maybe there's something that we don't know about engine wise with the battle that McLaren has with Ferrari and telling Norris to, maybe preserve his engine or something like that. But there just seems to be no pace coming from Lando's side. He can stick with them for a couple laps, but then he'll start losing a quarter of a second here, half a second there, and before you know it, he's 6-7 seconds behind. Yeah, it's just a rough race for him, because we obviously saw Ricciardo have a great race, a lot of good battles with Sainz that we'll talk about later. But yeah, it's been great to see Lando up there.
I think that's the thing with Lando. I think everyone wants him to be up there and always wanting him to do well, because he is a McLaren driver, and that's that British bias.
But Alonso.
Sometimes it can't be your race.
Yeah.
And this is one of those ones.
Yeah.
Let's see who's next. Carlos Sainz was next.
Yeah.
Carlos Sainz is 7th place. I mean, he had some battles with Ricciardo, Norris on lap 1, and there was a strange moment where he was overtaken by Lando and Ricciardo, or one or the other. One got past, one didn't, and he went off the track. He rejoined, gained a position, and then let Ricciardo through when apparently it was Norris he was supposed to let through. He said that he let Ricciardo through on purpose because he passed the McLaren or kept position with McLaren going off the track, and it was a bit of a messy situation.
Yeah, very, very messy. I feel like just let them race on that part. They were going 3 wide. Lando went on the inside, was super aggressive. He almost got caught up to Leclerc, who seemed like he was taking forever to make that corner, turn 12. But yeah, Lando stayed inside, gave Sainz enough space, but Sainz still had Ricciardo to his side, so he was, what can you do? It's racing, and especially with like the first 2 laps. I don't think it was in the first lap. I think it was in the second lap. Yeah, he gave the position back to Ricciardo. He shouldn't have, because the position somehow belonged to Lando, but Lando wasn't there. I don't know. That was just so weird. At the end, Ricciardo benefited from all that, yeah, just a decision that definitely impacted Sainz's race, I feel like.
Yeah. One thing that was nice, I mean, Carlos Sainz was one of the first ones that you sort of pick up on it. The grid walk was back. Did you get the grid walk in the States?
Yes, we did. Okay, so on our my local cable provider had the race on. Well, it's on ABC network, so ABC is one of the basic channels throughout our country. And I also have the F1 TV app. So I had the F1 app on my phone, and I had ABC/Sky on my TV. So, I very rarely ever get that, and it felt good to have that. But yeah, the grid walk was there, and I was able to see Brundle his interesting moments. He was
on fire.
Yeah.
Who was the rapper he spoke to?
Megan Thee Stallion.
That was phenomenal. When he asks her a question, she's talking back. They're all happy. They're all talking. He goes to ask another question. Someone goes up to him and says, "You can't do that," and he just responds, "Well, I can because I just did."
So quick side note: my wife has actually met that rapper, Megan Thee Stallion. We can go out later, but yeah. So my wife has met her before, so that's like my 2 degrees of separation to Megan Thee Stallion. But she's a very from my wife's experience, she's a very personable person. She's very friendly. Yeah, she's a rapper, and she's a star. She's famous, but she's actually a very friendly person. You can see that from the interview, because when Brundle went to interview Serena, it was like, I don't know. Serena kind of played it off as really dumb and just kind of.
Will it be an ace or will it be a double fault? I think was his first.
That was hilarious. Yeah, it was a double fault. But yeah, it's just Brundle means well, and to see Megan Thee Stallion interact in that split second, I was like, oh man, we're gonna get something great. I wish they kept on going, because she's very out there. She's very eccentric, and I'm sure it would have made for a viral moment. But
it was up there with one of the best grid walks. I think it's probably because the absence makes the heart grow fond of it. Yeah. It was fantastic when he accidentally walked into one of her entourage, and the guy was built like Shaquille O'Neal, who was also at the thing. And she's like, "No, it's fine, let it carry on."
Yeah.
And he had this little white guy going, "No, you can't talk to her." And I was like, "This is just quite funny. This is quite funny." And he then went up to Rory McIlroy, who's a Man United fan, and asked them how they did. And he said, "Well, not too well." And I think Man United lost 5-0 today. Yeah. But Rory McIlroy said he got off the plane, and the time he took. The fun fact: in the time it takes you to get off the plane or from the airport to Qatar, is the same amount of time it takes Liverpool to score 4 goals against Man United.
Which the airport is like less than 10 miles away from the track. But yeah, that's rough. Saleh, he hat trick. He scored a hat trick, and they scored 5 goals. So big ups to them. Big ups to Chris. I hope you're listening, buddy. Thank you for the flag.
And myself.
Oh, and you thought, oh yeah. Oh yeah. Well, there.
Yeah, I think this is why Dan isn't here tonight. Dan's probably just hiding because he thought he might have seen me and Chris.
Is he a Man U fan?
Dan's a Man United fan. Yep.
Really? Wow.
That would have been fun. Yeah.
I'm sure we'll hear from him later.
I'm sure we'll hear from him. While we're on the topic of 5, we'll get on to Ricardo. Oh, no, sorry, we've got to do Bottas. I thought I'd link that in perfectly there. We got to do Bottas. Valtteri Bottas.
Butt ass. Beep.
Butt ass. Yeah. You said you thought he raced well.
Yeah, he had a decent race.
I can't think that. I mean, he went from 9th to 6th
Mm-hmm.
in a car that is the second fastest car in Formula One.
Mm-hmm.
He spent most of the race. Not only did he get stuck behind Tsunoda for a while, he got overtaken by Gasly and was held up by Gasly.
Mm-hmm.
Bottas is moving to a midfield team where it's all going to be about racecraft in the midfield, and I don't think he's got that.
He's going to be the
new level that he'll need. I think he'll be forced out and down.
Yeah, he's going to be the new Mr. 11. I feel like he's going to take over that crown over Giovinazzi.
He thinks he's replacing Raikkonen. No, he's replacing Giovinazzi. Yeah. That's what's happening.
So yeah, I do think he had a good race. I'm not going to say the best race, but yeah, it could have been better. Obviously, it could have been better. If he was up in the top with the top guys with Perez and Max and Lewis, we probably would have had a different result maybe. But yeah, it is what it is. Austin Coda is, like I said before, it's not an easy track to pass. You do have that long straight. It's pretty much your only opportunity, and also up to turn 1. But he suffered from that, and just great driving from Gasly. I know he retired, but Gasly is on another level. He's been that way since he was demoted from Red Bull. I still hold him as my choice as a Mercedes driver once Lewis retires. I think that's the best he could have done. Leclerc up ahead was just untouchable. He was on an island out there in P4, and Perez was P3, and there was no way, obviously, with Max and Lewis. But that's like a realistic result for Bottas in this race. And I think he maximized his effort and maximized his result.
Yeah. We go back. Now we can actually get onto Ricardo. I thought he was fantastic this weekend, and he loves Cota, and you can tell.
He loves Texas, yeah. I need to hear from the Australians. Is Perth, Texas, in that area, is that similar to Texas? Perth, Australia? Yeah. Is Perth, Australia similar to Texas? Are they like cowboys out there or something?
I mean, from what I've seen on Drive to Survive, it looks like he's just got a ranch.
Right.
Like when he's out there, but I wouldn't have a clue.
Well, yeah,
the Saint clicks when he's there.
Yeah, yeah, he clicks. And this past week, leading up to the race, I was able to watch, going back to 2014 USGP. I was trying to watch every race leading up to it, and he just does very good here. 2015, he got up to the lead. Obviously, some bad pit decisions in the rain kind of drew him back, but every race, 2019 with Renault, the race where I was at, he had a great race. I think he ended up in 6th in that Renault that was really weak throughout that year. So whenever he's there in Texas, it's like a second home race for him, and he's adopted that, and the people have adopted that from him. What was fantastic was him driving the number 3 Wrangler Earnhardt car. That was amazing. Those cars are a little harder to drive, and I think he learned that. And you can see from his onboard, he did struggle a little bit, but the donuts were just amazing, and the sound, even something like me and my wife were just talking about was, when we've gone to other races or even out in the beach on the weekends, and most people take out their V8s. They'll take out their, you'll see Hemis out in the street, their Mustang, 69 Mustangs, whatever. just that sound, that V8 sound, is special. It's so special to me. Somebody who grew up here, born here, grew up here. I love that sound. My first car was a Ford Mustang GT, a V8 with a 302, and I would just sit in my car and rev the engine just to hear that V8 growl, and it was so great to hear that. It was like sex in my ears. It was literally, it was such an awesome feeling, awesome race. I gotta admit, like last year when Alonso was driving Abu Dhabi, when he was there was that one moment where Hamilton was being interviewed by Will Buxton, and Hamilton just stops and he has to listen as that R25 is driving through that track, and just that screaming howl from that V10 engine on that RB25, and that's that same feeling. It's just like, it's just such a great sound. I love that sound. Love that sound. I can smell, like I was watching it. I can smell that rubber burning and the gas and everything from that car. I wish I was there.
I've got to get my train of thought back and continue a podcast here. P4, Leclerc. He was my choice of driver of the day. I don't know why it went to Verstappen. I thought Leclerc was better. I thought Leclerc outdrove anyone who was in a car remotely close to him, and yeah, I felt Leclerc should have had driver of the day. I thought he was the best out there.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one too, man. I'm definitely with you on that one. Just looking at the race, I guess he didn't win driver of the day because Max won the race, and the Dutch love to vote.
Max once won driver of the day after crashing out on lap 1, I think. So,
oh, yeah, I can't remember what race, but it's happened. What race was it? Was it, I think last year maybe in Sakir? No, that Checo won that race, so Checo got driver of the day.
Yeah,
but there was a race. You're right, where Max was, yeah, probably Spa 2019 or something like that when he crashed in the first.
Something like that, yeah.
That's ridiculous.
It caught up.
But yeah, Leclerc, he's still a top driver. He's still a top tier driver. He belongs in that conversation with Hamilton and Max. Obviously, their cars, the Red Bull and Mercedes, are way faster than the Ferrari. But what Leclerc is able to do, similar to what Russell's doing with that Williams, he's extracting the most, the 100% out of that car. And you saw a great result in 4th place. Love it for Ferrari. I hate Ferrari, but whatever. I still love that result for them. Love that result for Leclerc. And, we do need to see Ferrari continue to improve, similar with McLaren, make it a 4-team battle next year. That'd be fantastic. Be fantastic.
I mean, we're recording this in American time, really, and so I hope for Dan's sake, I know he's a Man United fan, I hope he's not a Chicago Bears fan, because they've just gone down 34-3 in the first half.
The quarterback is with Justin Fields, right?
Yeah.
Oh, poor guy.
Yeah, it's going to be 35 here after the extra point.
My Steelers got a bye today, so
have my Vikings.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right.
It's nice because, I mean, whilst we're going a bit off topic here, it's nice not to have my heart going crazy as a game comes down to the final play. Instead, I had a race coming down to the final lap.
Yeah.
But before we can get to that, we have to talk about Sergio Perez.
Yeah.
It was like the old Verstappen podium when he wasn't fast enough to be with the Mercedes, but was too fast for everyone else.
Yeah. Formula 1.25.
Yeah, I thought if he was that far off the pace, what they should have done was sacrificed him a bit harder, made it so Lewis couldn't have pit at all, or for whatever reason, to try and undercut Max, and then gave it to the point where Lewis was never going to be able to get close. I thought Perez drove a solid race, though. I mean, you couldn't fault it. I mean, third place is third place, and he was never going to challenge the top two, and you could see that from what happened from turn 3 onwards, because any driver that wasn't Verstappen's teammate would have gone past him.
Yeah. He third place. He was a factor in that first stint. You heard Max on the radio, call out to have Perez's, to have him compromise Lewis's pit decision, and he effectively did. But after that, Perez was gone. Hamilton and Lewis kind of just left him in the back, left him, and so you're right. He was just best of the rest and right place, right time. It would have been nice to see Leclerc maybe have a little more pace to have a nice little battle with him to keep things honest. But Perez did his job in that first stint, which might have won Max the race. But just good, right place, right time.
Yeah. I don't think the race was won at all until we got to that final stint. We'll move on to second place, runner-up, fastest lap, to sort of numb the pain a bit. But Lewis Hamilton, second, he's 13 points now behind, with 5 races to go. It's getting to that point where he needs to start winning to turn it around, and it's not going to be easy with Brazil and Mexico coming up. I'm struggling to get my head around how he can win this title now. Oh, Danny, you're jumping up down a bit, mate. We're having some technical issues. Danny, you still there?
Yes, I'm still here. Can you hear me? 1, 2.
I can hear you. This is where you might have heard Danny the entire time, and you might have heard me the entire time, but that's because we're on separate audio recordings, and we have editing magic. But yeah, Danny, I was talking about Hamilton trying to piece together how he can win this title. Can you hear me, Danny?
Yeah, he has to. Yeah, I can hear. I heard your question. It's going to be a tough uphill battle for him. Mexico, Max can pull up another win there. Obviously, they will play the team game heavily for Max, like Ferrari levels team game with Perez and Max. And Hamilton, Bottas is checked out. He's not gonna put his effort to help Lewis. So Lewis is kind of left on his own on this one. I still have hope. I still have, there's still a chance. This is Lewis Hamilton. He is the greatest of all time. If there's anybody can do it, it's him. But he's had a steep hill to climb. There's Mexico next week, on 2 weeks. That's the next race. There's unknowns with Qatar and see how that will play out. But Abu Dhabi, if we remember last year, Max owned Abu Dhabi, and
there was a significant influence in that, though, that might have been called coronavirus.
There was, but I think Max really. It's also the last race of the year. Who knows how much the other teams, how much Mercedes put effort into that. But I just don't think that's a race that they need to take it serious. Well, I'm sure Mercedes will. But it's going to be hard for Lewis. He's got 13 points behind.
And today he just couldn't catch. And I've called for it a few times, but we need the new regulations in Formula One, because today we were like, we've got a grandstand finish. He's going to get close. We're going to have a battle on the last lap. Mm-hmm. And then when he got to around 2 seconds, he couldn't get tight. Because despite being so much faster and evidently faster through how quick he closed, regardless of what Tsunoda was doing or not, when he got to those 2 seconds, sure, Max may save some tyres, but that doesn't justify for not being able to close up at all.
Yeah, especially when you took 2 seconds and then you took 4 seconds off of the gap in less than 4 laps. So I know Hamilton. He was using his tires pretty heavily there, and Max was also caught up in traffic, very heavy traffic. But it was anticlimactic. It was being built up like the last 3 laps were going to decide this race, and and it just didn't happen. It just fizzled out. It was such a shame. But
Yeah,
it seemed like Max maybe learned his lesson. He saved some tires left, and he was able to, I think, lap 55, 54, 55. He was able to build enough of a buffer. So if Hamilton ever did get back into DRS in the next lap or two, that wasn't going to make a big of a difference, and it worked. So maybe
yeah,
it's another sign of maturity we saw from Max. We saw it last week
maybe.
when he settled for second place, and might see that probably came back again, and he probably knows that he's never been in this position before, but he's 14 points ahead. There's 5 races left. It's time to maximize your points. Lewis is going to, in the similar mold of every champion from the past, not to be dirty like Michael or even Senna, but he's gonna do everything he can, as we saw in 2016 in that last race with Nico. So, Max just has to be consistent, be smart, be cool about things, and not hot-headed, and he's in the driver's seat for sure.
Well, let's talk about Max Verstappen then properly. I first of all want to give credit to Red Bull. I know personally I slate them a lot because I don't like how they conduct themselves off the track this season. But today on the track, they got it spot on. The strategy was perfect, and when you do that, you make your driver's life a lot easier. And today they did that.
Yeah.
They did 95% of the work with perfect strategy, but it's that 5% that's the hardest to get, and that's where Verstappen excelled. And when he got to those last few laps, where he had to keep the cool, had to deal with the pressure of Hamilton coming closer, he was able to drive well. And like I said, the last 5% is the hardest to get, and that's what Verstappen had to do today. He didn't have to do anything else. He was smart this time. Unlike in Silverstone, he didn't have, when he had Lewis coming up the inside of him, he realised, I've got the better car this weekend, which he had in Silverstone. I can back out here and I will get him later in the race. Whether it's on track or through strategy, this time he realised, this time he didn't get over feisty, and this time he didn't end up getting taken out of the race.
Yeah. Yeah, there was definitely that opportunity in turn one. And, he did put pressure on Lewis. He went onto his racing line, but it wasn't egregious. It wasn't Singapore 2017, Vettel pulling a move like that. It was a smart move. It's a smart day for him. It was a smart race for him. He allowed Lewis to get back. He knew he was going to have that pace in the early part of the race. And, he had Perez right with him. So, he could, the undercut was always going to be there in that situation. And it just played in their hands. And it's just the benefit of having your teammate up there. And something Lewis has had in the past, having Valtteri up there. He wasn't there this for most of the part of this year. He hasn't been there. And just shows the importance. Like, yes, Lewis and Max are stellar drivers. They're some of the best. But their team,
it is a real,
you need their team.
Yeah, it's a real Prost-Senna situation, though. I mean, everyone says, oh, Lewis idolised Senna, but he is more of a Prost. He's methodical. He does the job well. Yeah. Verstappen is like Senna. He is brilliantly fast. He's hot-headed, though. And like Senna, say Senna in Monaco, he's got that mistake in him where his head runs too hot and he doesn't think. And that is probably combined with a bit of other good bits of good fortune, is what's keeping Lewis in this hunt. Is Verstappen making these ill-judged decisions? You're not backing out in Silverstone. Your incident in Monza, where thankfully for Verstappen, it's not a thankful thing anyway because he shouldn't be crashing anyone, but he took out Hamilton as well in that era.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's always, history eventually will get things right with the Prost and Senna situation. Senna is one of my favorite drivers. When I got into F1, Senna was the driver that I was rewatching old races, documentaries from him, and everything. But when you see Lewis, yes, you're right. Like you said, he says how much he looks up to Senna, but he's more of a Prost. Prost, he is like what, maybe less than 20 points away from being an 8-time world champion. And seriously, yeah, 84, Lauda beat him by half a point, maybe. He could have been world champion then. He could have been he had a chance in 82 and 83. He had a chance he won in 85 and 86. He had a chance in 88. If 88 was modern rules, he would have won the 88 title over Senna. He won 89. Senna crashed into him in 90. That would have been a world championship for him. Of course, we want to go after a character like Senna because he was, out of this world. He was fiery driver. He was a driver's driver, a racer's driver, and we don't give Prost that much credit to be methodical, similar to Niki Lauda mold in the Niki Lauda mold.
Yeah,
methodical. Okay, I didn't have a great qualifying, but how do I set myself up for the race? And
I think that's why Lewis and Nicky were so close, because they were almost built from the same mold. And then you could also, with his showmanship, the fieriness, you could say you see James Hunt in Max Verstappen. they've these rivalries that go through history. It seems to be always, when it's a good one, it's that same mold. You've got the fiery driver and you've got the professor. You've got the one who's methodical.
Yeah. And it's crazy because Hamilton wasn't considered that. 2007 till 2014, he wasn't considered the methodical driver. He was considered a Senna mold, similar to Senna. Burnt through his tires. He gave every last ounce. And, he gained a lot of fans. And I remember when he went to Mercedes, they all thought that Rosberg was going to be the methodical one. Oh, Rosberg is a smarter driver. He's with his engineers. You heard all that. But you saw where the success came, who the success went to, and it was Hamilton. And obviously when he continued evolving in 2017, you actually saw more of that Prost mold into Hamilton. But Max is, he is that James Hunt, that Prost. You can even say we can go back to like a Jacques Villeneuve kind of driver as well. When Jacques Villeneuve came into the scene in '96, he was electric. His rookie season was one of the best rookie seasons, probably the second best rookie season in Formula One. Max fits those molds, and it's good. It's good for racing. It's good for Formula One because it creates fans. The Dutch fans are great. When 2019, when I went to Texas, I saw so many Dutch fans, and they were amazing. They were all fun people. They were just having a good time, and their undying support for Max. That's great. That's great to see. I have that for Lewis, but where it goes bad is when you have the leaders from each team and they start throwing mud at each other, and it shouldn't cross over into the fandom. Us as fans.
I think that's the thing. What happened earlier in the season was horrible, and that happened because fans will jump on anything to take it to the extreme. And if you did what Red Bull did, you've got to remember you're setting an example.
Yeah.
It was. I mean, for Netflix, it would be great. However, Max Verstappen's not going to be on Drive to Survive this year, which I think is an actual. Some will say it's stupid, but I think it's a genuine advantage, this, because it's no distraction. You see these Amazon documentaries where they follow a team for a year and some of them say, oh, it was a huge distraction. Others will say it and just blend into the background. But it's one less thing to have to worry about and think about. And in a season like this, that could be the difference.
Yeah. You definitely see that distraction. I think that manifests itself clearly with Ferrari and their first year in the season 2 of Drive to Survive. Ferrari wasn't the same. They had a terrible year that year, and you had Netflix following around. They only featured them for maybe a race. So there is that.
I mean, it was because they were cheating in the year before when they were good. So.
Of course they were cheating. They were big time cheating. But you just don't.
I mean, no, sorry, Ferrari, you weren't cheating, Ferrari. We forgot that you weren't cheating. You were Well, we don't know, but we
Look,
can't say what
yeah,
it was
exactly.
because
We
you
will
can't
never
say.
know.
No one can say.
We
know
never
what it
know.
was. Everyone knows. We just can't say what it was.
Drip, drip. Oil goes drip, drip.
And with that, then I think we'll wrap it up.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for listening, everyone. Make sure you check us out on our socials. Hit the link up in the bio of the podcast. You'll see our store. You'll see everything in there. Everything in there goes to raising funds to keep us on the air, to keep competitions going. We want to bring you guys some more of those next season. Hopefully we can build up some funds, etc. And take things to the next level with what we do here. But until then, thank you very much for listening. Goodbye.
Adios.